Hello, one. Hello, all. Welcome to this July 13th. No, 12th. Damn it. July 12th.
15th. Well, 15th
Well,
today, sorry.
the weekend was the 12th to the 14th. So now that we just butchered every day possible. Today's the 15th. We're talking about the 12th through 14th. I am CP as always.
We are already off the rails. I am Lindsey. How's it going, guys?
I mean, Fuego here as well. What's up, everybody?
So, what did you guys do this weekend? Because it seemed like the rest of the country. Oh, I guess we'll start with the numbers. Man, we're just not in the right groove right now. So first was Spider-Man: Far From Home with 45. Second, well, again, Toy Story 4 with 21 million. Newcomer Crawl in third place with 12. Newcomer Stuber in fourth with 8. And Yesterday in fifth with 7 million. So now, what?
Aladdin in sixth with 6.
Yeah, Aladdin just, what was it, 21% drop, I think?
17.9.
Okay, so that was fixed from the estimate. So it went down even less.
Wow.
That's impressive. That's quite impressive. What isn't impressive is both of the newcomers this week not really blowing anybody's skirt off.
They're crawling their way to the box office.
Well, we'll lead with the bottom and Stuber because Fuego, you're the only one who saw Stuber, so
I did, yeah.
Yeah, why don't you tell us about it?
Yeah, I mean, it very much lives up to the R-rated buddy cop comedy, but very, very violent and nice and vulgar and stuff, but not as amazing as I saw a couple reviewers, one in particular that Cecil, my cohort on the horror show, is fond of, Angry Joe. Yeah, he was singing its praises, like I think 8 or 9 out of 10, something like that. And I was just like, don't get too ahead of yourself. It's great chemistry between the two leads, and they're very funny about 75 to 80% of the time. But when it's jokes a minute, not everything's going to hit. But I still enjoyed it, pretty thoroughly, and good chemistry really does go a long way. But kind of by the book story and nothing really too new or interesting being brought to, this sort of, genre that we don't see as often as we did in the 80s and 90s. It's not really going to wow anybody, but it was solid fun. I mean, go see it in a matinee or something is what we were saying off air before we started filming this.
What about the two leads? What about Batista as the action dude and I'm not even going to try to say his name.
Kumail Nanjiani.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Can they hold a movie?
I think they kind of can, actually. And, it was just to double down on it. Their chemistry, that really was the best part of it all. They're dynamic, and everything else as far as, the B-plot love interest thing, nothing we haven't seen before. But really, about the fact that Batista being this cop who is more concerned with, trying to avenge a issue with a partner being taken down, and just like this whole holding a torch for an old case that he's never been able to completely figure out, as opposed to fostering a relationship with his daughter and having gone through a divorce and stuff like that. And you find out about all this in the first 10-15 minutes of the film. So yeah, he's more concerned with career than with family, and presumably maybe that's why relationship with said baby mama didn't work out, but daughter is still there in town. And yeah, he actually brought some heart and some kind of range to everything. And I have to say, he is genuinely challenging Cena as the second to only The Rock as far as
successful
current wrestlers that are acting, because nobody can top Hulk Hogan. I mean, come on, guys. Suburban Commando, for God's sake. There's
Three Ninjas at Magic Mountain, okay?
That's right, he was in that.
Just want to say hi to folks in the YouTube chat. Dice Rolling, what's up? White Tim, Dank Depp, Dale Strunk, Tina Ann, Ryan Woods, what's going on? Robert Duvall, that's you, Fuego. I'm not going to say hi to you. What's up,
Robert
Tom?
Duvall himself, okay.
Scott Martin, Tamara, what's going on? I think we're caught up. Hey, all right, so we're all caught up. Lindsey, so why don't you explain what it is you did this weekend? Because...
Well, I actually I have a question about the movie we were just talking about, Stuber.
Okay.
That's what it's called. Did it feel like it was more like a improvised or more script heavy?
There were certain scenes especially where you could tell they probably just gave Nanjiani just a bunch of runs through and just let him go and, just find the best little quip to fit the situation. But it was at least very script heavy in the fact that it was deliberate beat after beat as they're going from, piece to piece in this case, because they're basically after this heroin dealer that, Batista has a history with and he hasn't been able to catch. And there's a great opening action sequence, I have to say, at the very beginning of this film. And it's a guy who was in the raid, and he's like, there's a staircase sort of circular thing in this high rise, and it's open in the center, and then it's just loops of stairs, and he is genuinely dropping from floor to floor, and it's really impressive, I have to say. And you get some Karen Gillan as Batista's partner at the beginning, which was fun. And but once again, it was like each beat was a skeletal structure to get to these, just back and forth bits between the two of them, which were fun for the most part. But it was just the cookie cutterness of every spot they had to go to. They're like, okay, we're going to go to Compton, and then we're going to go to Koreatown, and then we're going to go to Long Beach, and then we're going to, it was just, but it was well shot, and it definitely wasn't, I don't know. I had fun, but it just didn't wow the hell out of me. It was not a meh sort of mediocrity, though. It was above average. So. No,
that's good to hear. I feel like I love improv. I've done so much improv in my time, but I feel like way too many comedies these days just rely on that way too heavily. Like the Ghostbusters, Baywatch, things like that, where it's just they didn't actually write any jokes. They're just like, we have funny actors, they'll riff, and we'll have a movie. And it's like, that's not really how it works sometimes.
Ghostbusters suffered from that, I think.
McKinnon and Ghostbusters. My God, some of those scenes of her. She was in a different movie, man.
Yeah, you get a whole entire other movie if you watch like the DVD or whatever. All the extra them just riffing. Like there's, it's like, dude, you gotta say cut every now and again. Like I don't know how long these shoot days were, but too much is too much sometimes. It's too much to pick from, and it just have a, I don't know, pick one of five and go with it. Like.
And supposedly that's that what caused Lord and Miller to get booted off of Solo, just letting everybody riff too much and not relying on the script. And I love Lord and Miller. I would have loved to have seen their version of Solo, but it's interesting that that's a thing happening in the industry right now.
Well, there has to be that porridge is just right mentality where there's enough structure and enough of a direction that they're trying to push somebody towards in the sort of riffing, I guess, and... But in the Ghostbusters case, maybe they were hopeful for Dickless or Camesaw kicked its ass and stuff like that, because I know those were all just Murray riffing and doing his own thing. But and it's one of the best comedians of all time.
Yeah, it's
big shoes to fill. Yeah.
Also, too much dancing. There's just too much dancing in that movie. Just.
Oh, what Ghostbusters 2016?
Just too much dancing. Anyway, but keep going.
So, Lindsay, you abstained
Stranger Things.
Oh, season
nice.
I adored it. I am working on the video right now, but that is about it.
I kept you out of the theater.
Among other things, working a lot of doubles, car shopping, all that good stuff.
Yep.
Also, I watched a couple episodes of Supernatural with a friend, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's why I like this show. So I might be watching some more Supernatural in the future too.
I love Supernatural, man.
So it's been way too long. I love it too. It's so good.
Yeah.
Dale says Ghostbusters was all improv, not funny. Tamara says, how is Child's Play holding up, guys? I think it was in 12th, and I think it's now in 15th.
I don't even think it's in the top 10.
I think it's either 12 or 15th. Telephone.
16th.
16th. Is it a million?
Yeah.
Did it make even a million?
About half. Yeah.
Half a million.
590.
Okay.
Oh my goodness.
I'm a little bit busy at the moment.
Yeah,
I've never had that. I've never had that happen during. I guess I'm gonna start unplugging the office phone when I'm doing this. I apologize, everybody.
I love that it's like your answering machine says in Fuego Tainment. That's awesome.
It's the office phone.
Oh, of course. My apologies. No.
Yeah. Damn. Yeah. Okay.
That's all right.
Some serious.
I think we're okay. Oh, so just for audio's sake, for those of you who are watching and perhaps don't know this, we do have podcast versions of this show where you can listen and you listen to this very show on your drive to work if you can't make it for the YouTube, or during a workout, or you just want to wash dishes and listen to us BS about movie news that any of your podcast outlets. The Show Business is the name of the podcast. It's Show Business. And if you're listening, of course, we shoot this live on my YouTube channel, which is called WILIscredia, every Monday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. And you'll miss out on an edited piece that that will make a lot more sense if you watch. But so one more time, Child's Play was what, 16th with 500,000?
590.
Okay.
590. Yeah, and the other killer killer doll movie, Annabelle Comes Home, at what, 5.6 million, and it's now crossed 60 million domestically. So it's that franchise still continues to chug along. So.
Yeah, and that's an unfair argument. I really wish you didn't say that after Child's Play. They're different beasts entirely. I don't think that's a fair comparison, because Child's Play, what's the total for Child's Play? Do we have a domestic worldwide? Because it's starting to trickle out worldwide, I think.
28 domestic. Mm-hmm. No, actually, weird. Okay, so here if I go foreign on Box Office Mojo,
we had 6.5 last week.
Oh no, we got more than that. So that's two. That's a lot of numbers. I'm not going to do all that math. It doesn't look like it's up to 10 million yet, but it's like somewhere between 6 and 10 million, I'd say.
So I think the box office record for Child's Play was 33 million, and that's the original. So obviously that's not up to 2019 standards. So 33 million in 1988 obviously means a lot more today, but the franchise isn't one that you should be comparing to stuff like Halloween. Certainly not The Conjuring. This is a really good episode to test shit on.
I have an arm on my microphone. Its name is Army.
So the other, speaking of horror, I guess it's a fancy segue of sorts, as horrible as possibly can be. Crawl, both Fuego and I saw Crawl, and we kind of rushed out to see it last night. And hey, I don't know. There's a lot of positive reviews going around for Crawl. Surprisingly good. I'm seeing quite a few times, but I was taken quite a bit out of that movie. I don't know how you felt about it, Fuego.
I had a lot of fun with it, man. I mean, maybe I went in on Thursday night when my expectations were pretty, kind of meh.
Yeah.
And then as the buzz from me and Cecil and maybe Lee and a few other people who saw it early on, and then others like Cody saw it like a day or so later, I want to say, and then others saw it Saturday, Sunday, whatever.
Yeah.
I think maybe the burden of expectation hit with this film, because I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a step above, and it did a lot with a very simple concept. I wasn't sure where they were going to go with. It's not as gory as you may expect from somebody like Aja, but it's definitely not Piranha. That's for damn sure. It's also can't be like his Piranha movie. This was a film that took itself very seriously and had more of an emotional dynamic between the father and daughter. And I liked how they did take a good 20-25 minutes-ish to kind of develop that dynamic. I thought that gave more weight to just the dire situation the two of them were facing. And it's not a perfect movie, but as far as, I liked it a lot more than most of the other horror that I've seen, in the last couple of months.
That's
and,
fair.
Not since the festival circuit, where I saw some of my favorites so far this year.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I felt like it was a little silly. Some of the stuff they just kind of abandoned, like the sister. I don't remember what the sister's character was, but she also was concerned about the father, and that's why our main character is checking in on Dad. And then that whole sister angle just kind of disappears. A little silly at times. A lot to forgive when it comes to suspension of disbelief. I mean, there's a portion where somebody gets a bite in the arm, and somehow is still able to swim quite a bit in the film after having a crocodile wrapped around their arm.
There were a couple bits where I'm like, okay, it's adrenaline, right?
Yeah.
That's how they're somehow making their way through all of this stuff. Because,
Exactly.
there's some serious chomping going on. And, that was really check your brain in at the door, as my beloved father would say.
Yeah,
So,
and I think the problem with me was I heard from trusted sources, I guess is the best way to put it, that this is actually quite decent, quite surprising, and that's what I get for putting expectations on a film. This is something that if it were on cable or something, I probably would enjoy it a hell of a lot more at home or something like that.
You'd eat it up, huh?
Yeah, just no expectations. Just all right, here. Let me pause this while I go to the bathroom. Let me get a drink, whatever. But
you'd pause it. Oh, good for Crawl. It's pause worthy. Like, you know what I mean? There's those bad movies that you just kind of like let play that you're paying attention to, but you're not paying attention to.
Dialogue scene. Let me go get some meat.
Like, I think I watched Straw Dog remake with a buddy of mine one time, but we spent the entire time talking about like the cinematography and It Follows as we watched Straw Dogs. And so I can kind of tell you what happened in the movie, but not really.
That has Skarsgård's brother in it, the one who was on True Blood, I want to say.
It does. Yeah. What's his name?
Yeah.
I know you're talking about
Alexander Skarsgård, I want to say.
I think it's Alexander,
because Bill is the brother, Pennywise. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, he was the bigger deal 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Wander This World
Flip-flop.
says, I was just happy to see Barry Pepper co-lead a major release again. Really like him as an actor.
Yeah, he's a good side guy, good supporting player.
I didn't... that's another thing. I felt like he was a little damsel in distressy in this movie.
Okay.
A little.
I can feel you there.
A little bit, which it's fine. I just didn't understand why the character was set up to be pretty strong. It's just some stuff didn't make sense. Like again, this isn't you're not going to see Citizen Kane here. I put too much mentally into it. It's fun. It's fun. It's silly. It's crocodiles in a house. Or alligators. I don't know which one is which. But
it's gators. Yeah.
Gators. So
actually, per the chat, sorry to interrupt. Let's segue back a little bit here.
Okay.
I asked in the chat who wants me to do the math on Child's Play, current, foreign, and total with the domestic, and we have 4 people in the chat that want me to do it. We got Jason Voorhees, we got Dale Struck, we got Tina Ann saying other people doing math is cool, and then White Tim. So
that's what this show is math.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, math is amazing. It's I swiped my hand over the air of people on the podcast and a rainbow came out as I said that. Child's Play is at 7,599,000 at the foreign box office, and so that brings its total up to 35,900,000 something.
Okay.
So it's probably the new record holder for the franchise.
Yep. Look at that.
Not my Child's Play.
Failure.
Bingo.
Just a failure. Man.
Utter disappointment in every way, shape, and form.
Yeah. So there's we got a bit of news to chew on. Some not fun by 2019 standards at this point, and some, whatever. But let's talk about the week coming up first, and that is just. If you look behind my head here on the three-way, it's just The Lion King, and nobody wants anything to do with it.
Nobody.
What's interesting is that Rotten Tomatoes score is out, and it's not very Disney.
61. That's fresh. By the skin of its fangs, but it's fresh.
Barely.
Do we have?
Because like 59 is the cutoff, right? That's when you're rotten.
Is it? I don't even know what. Like, I would like if
I thought
60...
fresh was like 80 or more. Or
yeah.
something. Wrong.
I thought it was like school, like 65 you pass, and
I mean, a D is a passing grade, 60 is a D. I definitely didn't get a lot of those in school. What you talk about? Go away. But yeah, no, 61% of the people that have seen it, the critics, liked it. That's something.
Yeah, I guess
39% didn't.
This was supposed to be the movie of the summer, though, so that's a little interesting. Yeah. But I mean, if we've learned anything, if we had the top 10, you would see Aladdin in 6th, and that was supposed to be an absolute disaster, and that thing just refuses to go away. So, they don't make the movies for the critics. So, believe it or not, shockingly enough. So Dennis,
I mean,
Dennis in the chat says Child's Play is going to be at least $15 more on Thursday, which means it opens in Denmark on Thursday. So there's still places for Child's Play to be released. So have hope.
there you go. Good old Dennis coming with that $15 is going to really make all those
MGM's like, whoo!
It's going to change the scheme of everything.
Thank God for the blue corner. Sequel time.
Also, I complimented Fuego's shirt earlier, so I love the Mr. Meeseek shirt, BT Dubs.
Oh yeah, this is my thumbnail shirt right here. I don't know if you see like an animated version of me in a thumbnail. This is it. It's
nice.
It's a Meeseeks. Yep. Look at me.
Existence is pain or whatever.
that's exactly it.
I've only seen some of that Cecil has shown me here and there. It's the one show that people continue berating me that I haven't, properly scoped out. So
yeah, I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna be.
It's one of the ones that's got a very interesting fandom that I think takes away from the show a bit, but it's also a very good show.
That's why I don't like to talk about it too much because the fans are a little much.
It's the new Star Wars in terms of the epicness of the devotion that some people have.
Yeah, you just don't get it, man. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. No, and you do. No, it's fine. I see. So, Lion King, so it won China, which usually, I don't know why China gets first dibs at certain things. Perhaps that could be part of their little contract there, but
maybe.
Apparently, a lot of films have been floundering over in China, but Lion King came out with a roar in China, and we're expecting quite a bit of a pounce this weekend. What are you guys expecting? I guess I'll start with you, Lindsey.
Yeah, 54 million from China already. That's a drop in the ocean right there. I don't have high hopes. And it's the same thing that happened with Aladdin earlier this year. Everything they released about the movie makes it look horrible. Like they came out with the part of the Hakuna Matata scene late last week after we did the podcast, and it's just them just running, just do something, but they just keep running. Like there's a moment in the footage that they released where it legitimately feels like the footage has started over again, because what they're doing is so similar to what they've been doing. It's hard to tell the difference initially. You have to actually watch it a second time to realize that no, they did not repeat the footage. But that's very similar to Aladdin, because they did the Prince Ali scene, that like the worst chunk of the Prince Ali scene, and it was arguably the worst part of the movie.
Yeah.
And Aladdin actually, it had its moments. It wasn't great, but it was all right. So maybe that'll be this Lion King. Maybe that's the bar Disney's going for these days, is okay, just all right, not really pushing it, not really trying to gamble anything. Maybe that's why all the animals look so deadpan and non-emotional, because emotions are,
well, they
required much.
They scared everyone else enough to that, like, I mean, all of June was just stacked weeks. And here you go, you got this just wide open all to itself. I don't know. They're doing something right where they scared people off. What about you, Fuego?
Well, this is right there with those, early 90s properties that, along with Aladdin, people of my generation and a few years lower, like, both of my younger brothers and, most of their friends and stuff like that, they adore The Lion King. Not a personal favorite of mine. I appreciate it quite a bit, but it's not one that, I guess I was a little bit older by the time it was really hitting. I was just looking, though, that 174 opening weekend for Beauty and the Beast, which is probably the best performer. I don't have Maleficent numbers right here, but I think that's probably one of the best performers, although it was in March. So really curious. I guess Maleficent only did 69 its opening weekend, and that's despite Angelina Jolie not a property of this magnitude. I think this could creep close to 2 being uncontested, being the fact that Spider-Man's been out for a couple weeks at this point, being the fact that it's more or less uncontested here. I would not be surprised if it breaks 2, but I think it'll probably do in like the 160, maybe 170. I don't know if it'll do Beauty and the Beast numbers, because coming out in March ahead of all of the big summer competition, that was a leg up, more or less. And maybe some people love Beauty and the Beast more. I don't I don't know. That's another one. It's of that same time period where Disney was having that resurgence with their animated stuff. So
Yeah, Wander This World in the chat has a brilliant point that, there are people, Joe Sixpack, that see maybe 3 or 4 movies a year, but those people have had plans to see Lion King. So this might be the movie of the year, if only just for like word of mouth. And this could be a tri-generational movie, because I know I'm right there with you, Fuego. I was perhaps just a little too old for this, and I guess theoretically I'm old enough to be a granddad. But you could have a couple of generations worth of fans that grew up with this. That it's just a staple. It's really strange. I'm right there with you. I'm not that big a fan. Like, it's not something that when I think of Disney, when I look at the collection, I don't reach directly for Lion King. It might be second or third, maybe even lower, but everybody else seems to love this movie. But another movie that doesn't really rely on any stars. You brought up the Angelina Jolie point. This all I know is John Oliver is what, the parrot in it? I know nothing else.
No,
Okay, I didn't mean to break you.
No, I was just joking around with the chat for a second there. Mother Mayhem is in the chat, so.
Oh, she Lindsey and he Lindsey.
Yeah.
Lindsey v. Lindsey.
Right?
We got both Lindseys going tonight, guys. We got both Lindsey barrels going.
This has a lot of voice talent behind it, though. I mean, Beyonce, Childish Glover, or Donald Gambino, or whatever his name is. Isn't he in this? I want to say maybe.
He is, yeah.
Yeah. And
isn't he Simba or young Simba or old Simba? I can't remember.
I can't either. I would have to bring up all the. But I mean, bringing back James Earl Jones to be Mufasa.
Okay.
Oh, John Oliver is the bird you were asking earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Seth Rogen is the pig, right? The warthog. When I was a young warthog.
I was a young. Sorry.
I still remember the songs because both of my little brothers were so about the Lion King, and I was a little too aged at that point, I guess. Cynical teenager. I was like, man, I don't like Disney animated stuff anymore. It's lame.
No, I have an explicit memory from kindergarten of some kids in my class playing Lion King on the Jungle Gym. It's like, oh, I want to play Lion King, and they're like, oh no, sure, you're the bird. Go over there. We'll get to you eventually. They never got to me. I'm kidding.
I was never picked.
Exactly. I was never picked for Lion King.
Lindsey, did you give a number? A guesstimate?
100. Depressingly.
Yeah, I think I'll split you guys. I think I'm gonna say like 130, 140. Only because Spider-Man did what it did. Like, what did Spider-Man do on July 4th? Oh, actually,
what did it?
I think it's 5 day was like 150 or something like that, right? Or
it was those weird numbers because it was like almost a 6 day, right? Between
Tuesday.
Monday screenings and then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I mean, 6.5 days almost, or 6.25 or whatever.
Yeah. And people had it was like a bunch of Saturdays that movie had, and it still didn't cross 200 in the 5 days or whatever it was. Lindsey doing more math, it looks like.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if I can get the exact figures here. It says for the 5th to the 7th, it made 92, but I'm trying to find numbers on what it. Oh, here, just do daily.
And
that's a film that's probably going to cross 1 billion in the next week, though. I'd say
over 800 already.
Yeah, worldwide that is.
That's Spider-Man we're referring to, by the way.
Yeah, it's already at 847. I want to say. Yeah, 847 worldwide. Holy smokes.
Yeah.
Oh, so it made about 93. Those 3 days, and then it made 185 the total
in just under a week.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see Lion King doing too close to 200 at that point. Granted, there's no competition.
Yeah, that's very true.
Spider-Man had some like leftovers with Toy Story and some money to fight with, but I just can't wait to be king. No, I don't.
Well, it's going to be an all Disney top 3 though, right? Because it's going to be Lion King, Spider-Man, probably Toy Story. So.
Oh, it is.
Wait.
And Aladdin
Spider-Man's
is Dumbo still
technically
in theaters?
Sony, isn't it?
Well,
technically?
it's Sony Marvel together, but I guess it is more or less Sony's money with the licensing of the character between the two of them, because it does say Sony and Columbia at the beginning,
Mm.
in conjunction with Marvel Studios. So yeah, I guess that is Sony money. So I stand properly corrected. It makes me wonder what the split is on that, because it's been a while since I've actually got myself up to date on, is it just really Marvel licensing the character and not sharing any of the returns, even on the back end of that, despite the whole,
Yeah,
producing it
they do
in conjunction.
some weird trade stuff. I mean, they were able to use Spider-Man and Avengers, so
And
perhaps
Captain Civil War. And,
yeah, perhaps there was trading of consulting. Perhaps they said, "Listen, we're going to help you repair this character. You keep your Columbia money, but we're going to take him for a couple." Because it's like when you look at some of these weird deals, like the thing I always jump back to is that, Warner and Paramount made a trade, Interstellar, for the rights to Friday the 13th, and we haven't had another Friday the 13th in quite a long time. So that was a really uneven trade. So it's really funky what they end up doing. Like who knows what the logistics are.
Sony was in kind of a desperate scenario when they made that deal, though, because they hadn't really had a franchise hit in a while, and they were trying to get stuff like MIB 23 off the ground, that weird mishmashing of those two properties, which never happened, and all those Pascal email leaks where she was talking very crass and stuff. So I mean, they were just not in the best of light at the time, and then Spidey stuff has done good since this reboot, and then Venom does better than expected, and so they're kind of figuring their stuff out a little bit, I guess.
Dennis Blue Corner in the chat has one of the stipulations that will be void. If Spider-Man doesn't cross 1 billion, Sony gets to take him back, which again is at 840 right now in week 2. So,
and I heard that they're discussing re-upping that deal. So it seems mutually beneficial to a degree, especially if it's just getting to use that character on the Marvel side of things, and then Sony reaps all the benefits. I'm thinking of John Lovitz, where it's like he's losing his mind, and I'm reaping all the benefits.
So I did a little homework.
Oh, boy.
If we count Spider-Man as Disney, when Lion King comes out, there are going to be 7 Disney movies in theaters, including Dumbo, which is still struggling with 45,000 this last weekend. But hey, it's still in theaters.
They just won't put it down for whatever reason.
So that's 3 live-action Disney remakes, a Marvel movie, Toy Story, and I can't remember the other 2 right now.
Well, 2 Marvel movies, because Endgame being out still, right?
Yeah. Endgame, yeah.
Getting that re-release.
Man, Disney, there's a Maleficent coming out this year. There's that space movie in December.
Yeah.
Disney, give up the pie a little bit, huh?
So, I mean, that's why.
And let's not forget Episode 9. My God, that last Star Wars movie. Unless that's what you were just referring to. Yeah, that's.
I thought you were. I thought you were messing around. I'm like, yeah, pretty funny.
No, I was.
Yeah, let's just go with that.
Yeah,
just go with it. Go, man.
So, which news would we like to? Would we like to talk trailers, or do we want to talk about fun news? And
well, I just realized there was something about Lion King I forgot to mention. So let's back it up just real quickly here. I saw on Twitter a very, very interesting thing where someone went in and took stills from the movie at very specific emotional beats, like after Mufasa's death, or when he's about to confront Scar, or Scar sending the hyenas to go kill Simba, or when Simba's seeing his dad up in the clouds. And like they show a shot from the movie, and the animal is deadpan. And then right next to it is an edited version where they just, did like Photoshop tweaks, sink in here, stretch out there a little bit. And it looks so much better because it actually looks like they're reacting to what's happening and not just a personalityless, soulless lion. Not that we don't need to get into whether animals have souls or not, but you know what I mean? There's just this animal looking at something, and it's just incredible. And who knows, maybe the final product of the movie, that's not much of an issue, although I hear it's an issue, and I haven't read, or I try to stay away from stuff before I see a movie, but the buzz I'm hearing is that it's pretty deadpan. Yeah,
the stuff that I'm trying to ignore and not pay attention to, from what I've heard, that like, again, it's kind of like, I don't want to hear it. Apparently, it's Gus Van Sant's Psycho. It is shot for shot.
Really?
That is basically it with Lion King. It is a shot for shot remake done. In this, I don't know, realistic animation. Like, what do you call this? It's a CGI movie that looks realistic.
That's the real question.
They're both animated technically.
Yeah. But it's this. You know what this feels like? You know that's what it is. That's what's bugging me so much about this movie. It feels like a demo reel. It feels like Disney being like, "Hey, look what we can do. Pay us $15. Look what we can do." It's like the kind of thing you used to get for free when you buy a PlayStation. You get the demo disc.
Yeah.
You know, like you know what I mean. But it's like, but Disney wants to make $1 billion off of it, and they will.
Yeah.
And they're going, and all power to them because they've got that much power over the world and entertainment and media. But it's just this feels like an internal like tech demonstration, not a movie.
That's the problem.
Maybe it'll be different when I see it.
That's the problem with cinema today. Is you have more screens than ever before. Meanwhile, there's duplicate, triplicate of the same movie on these screens, and it's really nothing different. Sequels, remakes, all that jazz. We have all these screens, all these potential choices, and not much choice. It's kind of deflating. Like cinema's just kind of eating itself.
Yeah, and that's where I have to chime in because it was trending on Twitter, a day or so ago, where it was like, what is the difference between all these different formats? Because you go to a multiplex that has, 24, 30 screens maybe at some of these, and it's like, okay, you've got all of your regular, and then you've got your 3D, but then you've got your Dolby Interactive, and then you've got your IMAX, and then you maybe have your IMAX 3D as well, and it's just... I think the average consumer who isn't really a seasoned moviegoer and doesn't pay attention to a lot of this stuff, they're just like, oh my God, I'm almost overwhelmed by the extent of all these choices and what's the nuances and differences amongst all of them. And IMAX, when the average parent was growing up, was showing nothing but deep sea diving from James Cameron and stuff. And now for everything, that they have changed since going into showing commercial Hollywood films instead of just that sort of stuff that I grew up on watching on an IMAX screen, it's... I don't know. It could definitely be overwhelming. And, Disney at this point, with the fact that so much of their stuff dwells within all those different screens and is available on 2, 3, maybe 4 in all of those multiplexes, it's like, Shang Tsung, man, your soul is mine. and they just own us all to a degree because they own all my favorite properties that I grew up with as a kid, especially with the Fox acquisition now, along with Marvel and Lucasfilm and everything. So it's...
Yeah.
Oh, that's how we got to 7, because Dark Phoenix is still in theaters along with another Fox movie, and those are now owned by Disney. So,
so speaking of lifeless animals, I'll take the ball and run with it.
Okay.
Scarlett Johansson got herself in quite a pickle this weekend.
That's a segue.
And today she retracted. So what I'll read the quote first that she got herself in trouble with. She said, as an actor, I should be allowed to play any person, any tree or any animal because that is my job and the requirements of my job. And the internet went kaboom. And today
the internet? No, they never do.
Never. She's like, I should have been Groot. I should have been in the Lion King movie. I mean, come on.
And
I should have played a lion, like literally on screen, the only like real thing. I'm a lion.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm stuck.
Today she clarified and said, I personally feel that in an ideal world, any actor should be able to play anybody, and art in all forms should be immune to political correctness. That is the point I was making, albeit it didn't come across that way. Thoughts?
I wish Dino was here for this.
I was thinking the same thing. This is a Dino episode, especially with the following news. Yes.
I think we need to get Scarlett Johansson to a doctor so she can get diagnosed with foot and mouth disease. She seems to have a pretty bad case.
But does she? In her defense, we had Kate Blanchett, who played Bob Dylan a couple of years ago. Was it Kate Blanchett?
True. It was.
And nobody said a word about that. And the argument against that would be, well, it was part of the artistic form that they were trying to tell that story. Well, okay, it's art. You just kind of fell apart on yourself. So why is it okay there but not here?
Well, first of all, I love this. We have 3 just seriously white guys talking about this.
I'm on board.
I love it.
I character first. I don't care who plays what. Just make a good movie. Like, honestly.
Oh, of course.
Yeah,
I'm fine with whatever you want. If you gotta a chipmunk
I just had
that
to point
plays.
that out.
Yeah,
That was just
yeah.
it's just too rich. But
Yeah.
I mean, but I completely agree. As long as they can, as long as they're talented, go for it. But like I will say that gender bending is a little different than like race bending. Like I think there's a reason why Cloud Atlas only did it the one time, despite the fact that they bent and changed up everything else.
Mm-hmm.
And notice the one time that they did do a race bend in Cloud Atlas, it was turning Halle Berry into a white lady.
And that's okay.
Oh, I mean, if it's the same idea as like punching up versus punching down in comedy.
Yeah.
It's funny to make fun of the rich. It's kind of a dick move to make fun of the poor.
Yeah.
Unless it's and it's the same thing here. Like one, not to get political. I'm sorry, but this is
Well,
the things
no,
we need
I
to
mean
talk
this
about
week
with
it's
this.
kind of unavoidable this week.
That's true. But like civilizations that got colonized you can make fun of, but it's harder to make fun of the people that got colonized. Right. Is I guess the idea.
Yeah, no.
And colonialism ruined everything. Blah 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 blah. Live hard cuck.
The punching up comment that applies, yeah. But so Scarlett Johansson is technically she's a female. As far as white male or the
female.
Yeah. So I don't understand. Like it's a role that's going to, again. I think that the big thing was white cis female. Excuse me. That was playing a trans.
Yeah, just to give some clarification. So the movie's called Rub and Tug, that she was cast in initially, and she balked. When there was first all of this groundswell about how she has no right to have the role because of the fact that she's not trans,
Mm-hmm.
and it's about a transsexual, individual and everything. And as I'm looking at based on the true story of Tex Grill, a trans man who became the crime kingpin of 1970s Pittsburgh through his empire of illicit massage parlors.
Oh,
and
cool.
so, yeah, so.
That sounds awesome.
It sounds like it could have some of the oh goodness, the title is eluding me, the one with Matthew McConaughey and Jared Leto from a few years ago.
Oh, the drug one up from the Mexico.
I could search it.
Dallas Buyers Club.
Yeah, that's
Dallas
it.
Buyers Club. I always think of the Airborne Toxic Event song "Hell and Back" to Hell and Back. That was the theme of that. But I think this could have a similar bit of drama and comedy, depending on how it really approaches the subject matter. But if Scarlett was cast for it, I doubt it would be more on the comedic side. It would definitely be more on the dramedy side of things. But I was talking with some LGBT friends this weekend about this on Saturday at the hotel that I work at, because we're in an area of town that is kind of considered the gayborhood, which is awesome because of the fact that you get such an awesome melting pot of perspectives there, and acceptance and just coolness, and a nice element of diversity. And the thing that all of them were saying as they explained the situation to me, being a straight white man, the most hated demographic probably in America, and with good reason, because we give people like me a bad name.
Right.
We suck. Let's just admit it, guys. We suck. Yeah. We are the worst. Like, even when we're not the worst, we're the worst.
So no, I'm gonna kind of piggyback that and say some cities, some areas of this country are more advanced than others. Some parts of this country have kind of caught up a bit and aren't as oppressive as others. But the problem is some parts are still quite oppressive and things aren't even, and it's just funny that this comes up. If it was a black man that were cast to play a trans woman, would this argument still come up?
It's tough to say. I mean, the way it was explained to me was that we've had so many gay men play straight men. We've had a lot of gay women play straight women on screen and stuff. And there is an essence to being a chameleon as an actor and being able to just believably play a role that is totally not you. And the Blanchett is a really good example there as well. Mm-hmm. But the way it was explained to me, the point that I didn't get to a second ago, is the fact that there's. Oh no, you're fine. It's just the fact that there is so little trans representation, specifically as far as LGBT stuff goes on screen. And I know I didn't list the entire acronym there, unfortunately, which is my bad. But it's the fact that there is so little actual trans representation. That's why there was so much grief about this in particular. So
Tangerine was
also,
a pretty good time. All right.
No. Tangerine was very good. Sorry, I didn't mean to jump on you there. But I think the fact that this is kind of coming off on the heels on Ghost in the Shell. It's like the double, it's like the 1-2 punch of the two of them is the problem.
It's Scarlett Johansson. Like, what else can you possibly? Is there nothing else you can play other than things that aren't what you are? And I mean, you could say the same thing for what's her face? Not Natalie Portman, but her stunt double in Star Wars. Why is her name?
Keira Knightley.
Keira Knightley. All she does is period pieces. Like every time I see Keira Knightley, it's at least 50 years old. That movie takes place at least 50 years ago. So it's
and I love her so much. She's great. Except for The Jacket. The Jacket is one of my favorite Keira Knightley movies, and that's her and Adrian Brody, and it's a weird time travel post-Iraq kind of. If you guys haven't seen that movie, The Jacket is awesome. It's kind of a mind melter.
Yeah. I'll have to check that out.
It's cool.
Yeah. So, shoulder shrugs and what do we know? I guess is the
no, and I do get what she's saying. It should be about the art. Our art is inherently political. It's almost impossible to make some kind of art that doesn't have some kind of political leanings on it, one way or the other. But at the same time, we shouldn't go out of our way to inject politics into things needlessly to the point where we're arguing like Lion King proves QAnon right or something like that. We got to just go with what's actually in the things, not project upon them. But at the same time, and she does have the right. She is correct. She has just like people have the right to get up on stage and say, insert racist comment here, and the government can't punish them because, freedom of speech. You still have the right to play what roles, but you also have to just deal with the backlash. And when you're going to play things that are obviously going to stir up trouble, you can't be surprised when trouble's get stirred up.
Yeah, that's the essence of being an actor, right? It's putting yourself out there. I mean, in any sort of creative medium, really, and just you have to have thick enough skin to deal with your critics and the naysayers.
Mm-hmm. I wonder if it were Meryl Streep, would it? I mean, because if there's acting
funny,
royalty,
she's never tried actually.
Well, she's done quite a bit. I don't know what I saw. This CNN program called Movies, which I only saw the 80s. She played something, I think South African, maybe not. There's a couple things she did in the 80s where I'm like, man, she's just an absolute chameleon. And there was some role that I've never seen the movie, but they played a clip from it, and I was just like, all right, for as much as I get on the Academy for putting Meryl Streep in seemingly every year if she plays a door person, she's
nominating her for Into the Woods, for God's sake.
Yeah, jeez.
Yeah, it's
favoritism much.
Yeah, it's just like you've done it enough. Here's your nomination, but the times the times they are changing. That's I guess what I wanted to get to, because I mean.
Speaking of Kate Blanchett, I mean Bob Dylan, right?
Right.
That's funny. I immediately went to Watchmen. But yeah, you're right, Bob Dylan.
Yeah, I don't think that Bob Dylan movie is even 10 years old. Yeah, it might be right around 10 years old, because wasn't Heath Ledger in it?
He was.
All right, so he's been dead 10 years. Yeah. So it's a little over a decade old. It's just funny how much has changed in that time where it wasn't even a thing. It was neat. Here's Kate Blanchett playing Bob Dylan, but
then there was like Hairspray where what's his face was a woman.
Yeah, John Travolta. Oh my God, it's John Travolta.
Right? It's gender bending. It's fun as long as you're not doing anything too weird with it.
Well, wait. What about Bohemian Rhapsody? Why wasn't that played by a bisexual?
I mean, there's a lot of things you can watch up Bohemian Rhapsody as issues, and that is definitely one of them.
Yeah, you go down this rabbit hole, and it's like, all right, so where's the ground? Like you just keep going and going and going. It is art after all. It's not like.
And it's in those situations, man, where I would say it's kind of impressive if a professedly straight man is going and doing stuff like that. I'm like, hey, more power to you and the craft and so on. I mean, same with a woman as well, obviously, So that's the essence of acting if it's actually acting. So
yeah. So to segue right into some more fun news.
Oh, well, I didn't even remember what the other thing was.
Lashana Lynch.
I was wondering if we were still going to discuss it.
Lashana
that's
Lynch
right.
is the next 007. That was reported by the Daily Mail, by the way, which apparently is a rag mag over in the UK.
Mhm.
So there's been a bunch of clarifications via the Twitter sphere that
Twitsphere.
that she may not be Bond. She may not be the lead character. That 007 is merely an ID number.
Mhm.
But
People got angry.
yeah,
They got hangry.
That's pretty fair. I mean, here's what I'll say. She was the second feature in Captain Marvel. She wasn't even the lead. She was the third female in that film. Granted, I think it's been clarified that she is a tertiary character in the next Bond or whatever they're talking about her being 007 in. Sure, but we're gonna put the heavy weight of 24 007 films on somebody who technically isn't somebody who's announced their presence yet.
Yeah. No, it's like we said before, the internet's going to internet and it's going to get angry. But reading up on like what I've seen on this is actually sounds like a really kind of interesting way to approach this. Like Bond has retired, so the 007 moniker is up for grabs for whoever's around to grab it. And this lady's grabbed it, but something big and kooky's going on, so they need Bond to come out of retirement, good old cliche style, and get back in the saddle again and do his stuff, and probably team up with Miss Lynch.
Yeah,
that sounds like a good movie to me.
Well, then who's Bond then? If Lynch,
supposedly Craig.
Well, why is he not 007 then?
Oh, okay. It says James Bond. So the stupid arm. There's James Bond, and then there's 007. So Craig is going to play Bond, supposedly, and Lashana Lynch is going to play whoever this 007 character is.
Oh wow!
If that makes sense,
oh,
yeah.
Wow.
And that kind of makes me think of GoldenEye, where remember they had 006, and they really played up the fact that there were multiple agents and different aliases and stuff like that, which is, there's a lot of conflicting reports about this story, which is where I think there is a lot of people just clickbaiting and jumping to it, because we don't really have anything official yet, at least from what I've seen.
Again,
so.
The Daily Mail is the equivalent of the Inquirer reporting something here. That's not that is not a journalistic. There's not integrity in that story. I would say cautiously.
I know the Guardian reported it too. I think the Guardian's a little bit more reputable, presumably. But
I wish Emily was here. I genuinely asked her. It is. I think it's another kind of. We call them rag mags here in America, and
there's a lot of tabloids over there, I guess, as they sometimes call themselves, that break this sort of gossipy Hollywood stuff over there. It's not reputable like a THR or a Deadline is, and it's a little bit different. So
it's their TMZ.
As reputable as you want to claim those two are, but
his ears must have been ringing. Dino in the chat. What's up, Dino?
Dino.
Every time somebody talks about women news, Dino's ears ring. So, no, not Scarlett Johansson. I have to be honest. I even have her image on screen.
Mm-hmm.
Like I had to be reminded of who she was. I don't know if. Again, even if she's the female lead, is this the right actor? Never mind what we're talking about. Race, sex, any of that. Is this the right actor for something like this? I mean, granted, you could go down the same rabbit hole as something like Star Wars. A bunch of nobodies came out, and now they're holding on to the biggest franchise in history. I think, right?
Ever.
Yeah. So it's been done. It's just I haven't seen much from her. Like, granted, not much wowed me about Captain Marvel to begin with, but. Again, she's the second feature. So that's could somebody else have taken this role and maybe done something with it? This is all speculation, mind you. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, Idris has been rumored for a long time to be taking over this role, and I'm assuming that's not the case. I don't know, this could be just a one-off for this film. It's a plot device. It's them kind of getting their feet wet and testing audiences with the possibility of somebody else being the 007 and just how they would take it, and maybe maybe they have interest groups or whatever, all kinds of different stuff in place when they start to screen this movie finally. And they will take that to heart, and they will fashion this passing of the torch accordingly after how this performs. It's almost like Star Trek Generations, where they had the original crew, and then they were kind of passing the torch proverbial and seeing how a big screen film with some of the Next Generation crew actually did as far as box office. And then First Contact was the best of all the Next Generation films. So, I mean, what are you going to do? But
yeah. Oh, yeah. First Contact is so good.
So awesome. Cromwell, man, he's great in that movie.
By the way, I'm looking at the cast list for Bond 25, the new one that's going to be coming out next year with Miss Lynch in it and whatnot. The cast that's listed for it is kooky. You got Christoph Waltz again, somehow.
Yes. Reprising, apparently. Maybe teaming with Bond, from what I was reading.
What?
Wow,
yeah.
Okay.
Weird, right?
Yeah, and Leia Seydoux is coming back again, too. So she was Madeline in the last one, so I guess they're doing a Vesper with her now and having her sticking around. And Rami Malek, too, is the bad guy. I didn't know that.
I'm just glad Sam Mendes isn't doing another one. I'm really curious what Cary Fukunaga is going to do with a Bond film. That intrigues the hell out of me. I'm kind of disappointed it didn't work out with, who was the British director? It's eluding me at this point. He was originally, and then he left the project. I would have to double check. It was a definitive note.
Yep. Well then,
Danny Boyle was originally going to do it, which I think would have been very interesting to see him do a Bond movie. But he's never been like a really action-centric director. He's been more on the dramatic side of things, obviously. Yeah. Even the stuff in Sunshine, where it turned into a serial killer mutant on a spaceship sort of thing, felt so out of place compared to the rest of the film. Although I guess the action was shot at times pretty decent in 28 Days Later, but his forte is more so on the dramatic side of things. But, I mean, it's still in good hands with Cary, I'd say. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Somebody said it before. My apologies. Wander This World said, "Holding judgment until I see the movie," which is a great mentality to have, because who knows what's going to happen. They're testing Run, Sweetheart, Run right now, which you've heard nothing about. I know I hadn't prior to hearing that they were testing it. So who knows what journey this movie takes. I mean, they all but admitted that they're changing Star Wars Episode 9 because of the backlash from Last Jedi. So, unfortunately, the internet, if it gets loud enough, the stupid studios listen. And
I hate it. I hate it so much.
Yeah. I mean, think of how many franchises would be ruined right now if the internet existed the way it does now 20 years ago. It just 15, 20, 30, whatever. I think 20.
Well, everybody talks about the whole 30 years ago, because this year, the original Batman and Michael Keaton and the fan uproar about, maybe for me, the best Batman, aside from maybe Kevin Conroy, because that's who I hear in my head when I read Batman comic because of the animated series. But yeah, and the same thing kind of happened in the days where the internet trolling was just finding its footing on that Rap Tappy bridge, with the casting of Heath Ledger. And so yeah, it's kind of a crazy state that we live in right now. But weird thing about Episode 9, though, it was that weird perfect storm of the fact that Carrie died and the fact that what's his face, who did Safety Not Guaranteed, that I was such a big fan of, who also did Jurassic World.
Yeah. Colin Trevorrow.
Yes, Colin Trevorrow. So he had this script that was drastically different, and then he had to do a major reworking after Carrie passed away, because it was supposed to be, first one was focusing on Harrison, second one was going to focus on Hamill, and then the third one was going to be very Carrie centric, and he had to do a mad reworking, and the studio was not digging how he was trying to change things up, and so it was slightly circumstantial, but then probably, the fact that there was the backlash about Last Jedi as well, they're just like, let's just scrap it all and bring JJ back.
Why
the hell?
And JJ supposedly has basically just said, screw it, it's the last one, let's just do it, which is scary to me.
Let's bring back the Emperor, even if we never had any plans to do that.
If the Red Letter Media has just put out a video where they're
a great video
where they're BS predicting things, and
some of Arizona and those guys, my God, those guys.
Some of it is quite. Granted, silly, but they back some of what they're talking about up, and there's a rumor that they present that there could be time travel in Star Wars Episode 9, and they back it up with images, and I don't know how I feel about that, but it's one way to retcon Luke in Last Jedi, which I don't understand why that is the big thing that people have a problem with. Obi-Wan is dead in the original trilogy more than he isn't. Just because somebody's dead in Star Wars shouldn't mean much. I don't understand why that's such a sticking thing for people. Like, you think he's gone for Part 9? Like, have you watched Star Wars? Even the prequels, there was Force Ghost. What?
I always thought he'd be a Force Ghost in this 9th film.
I know.
Who was behind it, I honestly always got the vibe he was going to die in 8, because if it was his film, it was going to be the end of his journey, and I thought he would turn into, the Obi-Wan, because Obi-Wan appeared in both Empire and Jedi as a Force Ghost to Luke, and I thought that was the new role we were going to get with him and Daisy, and I was fine with that, so...
I want to see some Force Ghost training. That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
The stuff I hated about 8 did not have anything to do with, maybe sucking on the weird teats of the whatever milk and stuff, but it was really just the tone of a lot of the humor, especially that opened the movie with Poe, that I didn't like as much, and the whole casino stuff, but then it felt more prequels era to me. But it's not as bad as a lot of people make it out.
No, and it's proficiently made. Like I don't like this prequel argument. I'm sorry, it's not a medium shot reverse for dialogue. It's a proficiently made movie. Whether or not you think the story is good, that's one thing, but don't talk about the way it's technically done. He emulates a cinematography shot that's quite famous and ambitious, considering you're making Star Wars. Let's calm down with the cinematography tricks. But they
had the whole Rashomon sequence in the movie, and what kid knows Rashomon?
Star Wars is based in Kurosawa, isn't he?
Obviously, but this is a big reference to Rashomon. It's like the whole movie pretty much. I guess not the whole movie, but you know what I mean. It's a very how's the remake The Last Jedi doing over here? Because I will never
Monopoly money.
Right, yeah, exactly. It's you don't like a movie, you don't like a movie. You don't like Game of Thrones season 8, you don't like Game of Thrones season 8. Why do we have to remake everything? Yeah. And it's like the Zack Snyder cut too. It's like why can't we just accept that sometimes a movie is bad or a show is just bad?
I actually want to see the Snyder cut. I
do too.
I would be interested. I would totally be interested, but just this rabid fandom need for it is just fascinating to me. Again, I would totally watch it. It's just
the fact that Lindsey, the fact that Disney has
I'm Disney. I am Disney incarnate.
The fact that Disney has 95% of a different Solo movie and refuses to capitalize on it, release that straight to home media for $10. I mean, I'm sure you'd make money off of it. It's Star Wars. It's extra Star Wars. People pay for that stuff. I'm just fascinated at why they're not letting any of that out, like deleted scenes or something. They'll probably wait for some sort of dumb anniversary to pump a little bit of it out at a time.
Yeah, after episode 9 is done, I'll do a crazy Disney era Lucasfilm box set that has an extra disc of supplemental deleted crap or whatever. I mean, kind of like what they did with the phases of the Marvel bricks, where they had a bonus disc with new deleted scenes and bonus features and stuff. And I'm like, you want me to drop 200 something bucks on that when I've already been buying each of these individually for $20 to $30 each time? They just get us, man. It's horrible.
Yeah. So some trailers dropped today, and I think we all rushed to see both of them, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, I have a reaction of The Kingsman that's going to go up right after this, and then I watched Three from Hell, and Three from Hell.
So we could start with The Kingsman, because I'll lead in with a joke. I knew nothing about this film, and
Really?
I'm like, wow, what a weird title to call something The King's Man. Knowing that there was a film called The Kingsman a couple of years ago, and The Kingsman Golden Circle, and I'm watching, I'm like, it's got a very similar look to it to the Kingsman Golden Circle. And then I'm not kidding, I genuinely had no information on this movie. And there's some shots, and I'm like, this feels kind of Matthew Vaughn-y. Wait a minute. And sure enough, the title comes up, and then they show the building, and I'm like, oh, this is a prequel. Okay. Now it makes sense.
I went through literally the same thing as I watched the trailer. Not really.
I was the only one, man.
No, I dug it. I really did. I'm down to see where this is going. I want to see World War One. I'm sorry, not even two. World War One era Kingsman stuff. That looks interesting, and there's like an odd nefariousness to the way that Ralph Fiennes is presenting some of this stuff. So are the Kingsmen the bad guys in the past? Because what's he saying? Like, we didn't win all this through chivalry, but through force or something like that. I don't remember the exact line, but I just want to see where it's going to go.
It looks slick. You don't. World War One isn't synonymous with a lot of recent films that have a certain look to them. So I can't think of many, if any.
Wonder Woman. I mean.
Okay, but there's not many. World War II, I could probably name 10 right now, but World War One, it'd be nice to see something modern for that.
I'm legitimately trying to think of one right now, and I kind of can't. Was Hacksaw Ridge?
Yeah, Hacksaw Ridge, Letter Iwo Jima, Flag.
No, Letter Iwo Jima was World War II. So was Saving Private Ryan.
Okay. I thought you were talking about World War II. So yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Hacksaw Ridge was 2. That's why.
Was it
that's
2?
why I had.
It was 2. Yeah, totally 2.
Oops.
Pacific Theater.
Crap. Yeah, you're right.
Fuego, why don't you talk about while Lindsey burns his brain?
So I'm gonna say that as slick and cool as I thought this looked, I was disappointed in the fact that it didn't have the same comedic vibe of those two Kingsman movies, because that's what set this world apart for me, was the fact that when I saw the first trailer, I was like, oh man, they have this Eggsy kid who looks like he's a reject from Attack the Block, and they're going to retrofit him into being a James Bond type. And I purposefully did not watch the film for probably a good year and a half, maybe close to 2 years, as we were approaching the sequel coming out. And a few friends of mine at the day job were like, dude, there is this shootout in a church, and it's to Freebird, and it's so flippin' awesome. You need to see this movie. And I was like, okay, I'll Redbox it, whatever. And I loved it. I thought the first Kingsman was brilliant. It was that perfect mix. I mean, much more so than Stuber was, of the violence, the violent, just kind of action and humor, but with a sense of sophistication a little bit. And I mean, Matthew Vaughn, whether Kick-Ass or Layer Cake, I think was the first thing I ever saw from him, and he was an old protege of Guy Ritchie, and so he films action in a really cool manner, and I've always dug the hell out of that. And yet this, it looks great, and I find World War One fascinating, and I feel like it needs more representation on screen, like you guys said. But I was just waiting for some quip, a joke, something that was going to make me chuckle up, something that was going to give me that vibe. Now, granted, the Golden Circle was way too hammy. It was it was like the ultra violence with way more cheese.
I heard that. I haven't watched it yet, and I've heard that it's. I haven't watched it because so many people said it's it's like everything turned up to 20.
It's too over the top.
Yeah.
It really, really is, and it's still entertaining to me, but it's very much of the 2.5 to 3 star, whereas the other one was 3.5 to 4 star. Like really, just balanced everything. The whole porridge is just right. Crap that I always go back to.
Perhaps that they're overcompensating back to seriousness.
Maybe.
I'm just thinking this first trailer, maybe they were trying to show, different setting, so on and so forth, get maybe people who wouldn't necessarily want to watch a Kingsman movie. They're like, oh, it's a World War I movie. And then maybe they're taken aback when we see, the finished product or another trailer that sprinkles in the humor a little bit better. But I'm still stoked for it. It just didn't feel like a Kingsman movie to me. So. Yeah,
that is a good point, that the comedy has been such a big part of the franchise up until this point. It is a little jarring that it's so lacking. You don't necessarily, different movies and franchises can have different feels to them, but I think the movie would lose something if it doesn't have like a little bit of that comedy to it, or at least a little bit of that zaniness. And I actually really, really like Kingsman too, but I've watched it twice, and the second time I watched it, parts of it were a little much. As much as I actually love the villain, what's her name? A lot of people weren't crazy about her.
Yeah,
exactly. But there's just something about just her. Oh, sweetie, no, you shouldn't have done that. Now I must kill you. That just
I must
worked
make you
for
into
me.
a hamburger or whatever,
and then feed you to my other employee.
Yeah. And I like the statesman stuff in there. I thought that was cool, the counterbalance between the two working together and everything. And I mean, I did really like it, and I like the world building that they're doing. I haven't read the Mark Millar comics, so I can't. I know they're very loosely based from what some friends of mine have told me, but yeah.
I mean, I haven't read them either, I'll admit it, but I just like Matthew Vaughn. Is this Matthew Vaughn again?
Yep.
Yes, he is directing and producing, but they have a different writer on board.
Got a trilogy there.
Yeah, and they're still working on the third one too. That's coming in about a year and a half. So.
Wait, you mean the fourth one?
Well, the official third one, with this being a prequel.
Oh,
so,
wow.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah,
gotcha.
my brain
the
stopped for a
sequel
second.
to Golden Circle. Yeah.
Right. No, but sorry, we were talking chronologically for a second, and I was thinking release. That's on me.
Yeah.
We'll bring back the kid from Rocket Man and Eddie the Eagle, and
Oh, Eddie the Eagle.
So,
Taron Egerton, I want to say his name.
Yeah, good old T. Edgy.
Yeah, he's a great actor, man.
I like him a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of threes.
His company.
There was another trailer today. 3 from Hell.
Yeah.
I'm sick of Rob Zombie, man.
Dude, he hasn't been around in a while, but yeah.
Well, 31 was about a year and a half ago, and
dude,
that
think
just
longer.
felt like Rob Zombie was tired already, and this kind of continues the trend for me.
Yeah. Was this crowdfunded too? Because I know at 31, it took two rounds of crowdfunding to get that one. I don't know what the deal with this one is, but like that hammy, purposeful, that grindhousey trailer look, like on purpose, like kind of. No, I'm okay, thanks. Oh, you mean to tell me that Rob Zombie's doing yet another movie that feels like something a little over the line and, Southern fried and from the 70s, no matter what time frame it actually takes place in? Cool. Awesome.
Well, and it declaring itself a new horror masterpiece as opposed to, how usually they have like flashes from the critics saying a new horror masterpiece. This wasn't even that. This was them just declaring themselves as such in the marketing material. I was like, really, guys?
That always bugs me when things are like self-proclaimed the greatest blah 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 or the master of this or that. It always feels like it's the director or someone else stuff. It's like, oh, so in the trailer you have to say that the visionary director of blah 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 blah. Like,
oh yeah, because Tarantino's got 9th film every time. Which, by the way,
he has earned that.
I guess, but all right, we get it. We know who you are.
Right.
We're not.
No, you're right,
why are we keeping track? But yeah, speaking of trailers that are on in front of every movie that I see, that I just want the movie to come out already, if only to not see the trailer anymore.
Same.
Like, all right, I'm excited you got my money. Just let's get it on with already. But that comes out. Yeah, almost there. 2 more weeks, right? 1 more week. 2 more weeks.
I've never actually seen The Devil's Rejects, so I don't really have. I watched the 3 from Hell trailer, and I'm just like, okay.
Yeah. doesn't look like you need to really catch yourself up, because they kind of catch you up in the trailer that what the story is with these people. So
I guess they're mass murderers that people want released from jail for some reason.
released to 3.
Well, they essentially, everybody thought got killed at the end of the Devil's Rejects film, and it was a sequel to House of a Thousand Corpses. I did not like House of a Thousand Corpses. Okay. I thought Devil's Rejects was at least significantly superior in that regard as far as filmmaking goes and performance-wise and character development and everything. But I don't know. Rob Zombie has just continued going back to the well of the kind of white trash kind of thing, which he really was reaching for with the Halloween films. And that's probably why I love Lords of Salem so much, because it was Rob Zombie actually doing something different as opposed to what this feels like to me and what 31 also felt like, which was Rob Zombie trying to make a Rob Zombie film as opposed to Rob Zombie really doing something different and original, which is the way I felt about his first couple outings. So at this point, he's just going back to the well, going through the grooves, going through the motions and stuff. It's like some of the later Rob Zombie albums, unfortunately. I was a big fan of his. So
yeah, I was on board with 31 from that first scene. I mean, I felt like I felt like perhaps with the dialogue and everything, he was kind of sucking himself off a bit with the way he was writing. But
that actor was the best part, though.
Yeah,
he was awesome.
Yeah, right after that opening scene, though, it just falls off a cliff. I think Cody says it more than anybody. Cody from Cody Leach. There's a bunch of different. You could take all of Rob Zombie's movies, and if you just take little pieces out of each one of them, you could probably put together one really nice film. It wouldn't make sense, but he's got enough little pieces that there's moments he flirts with you where it's like, look, I actually can do something really awesome, but never mind. Here's 45 minutes of motherfucker. Oh, there's our one.
Yeah, which is what I have to even admit about Lords of Salem. The last 20 minutes are just absolute bonkers idiocy. If you think the end of Altered States is ridiculous, then you haven't seen anything until you watch the end of Lords of Salem. It's just nonsensical imagery, and then you get an epilogue that kind of ties everything up. So.
Right.
Interesting.
So
I'm trying to think of which Rob Zombie movies. I know I've seen the 2 Halloween movies.
Yeah.
Man.
And now I'm just like, I know I saw. What else has he done? It's the House of a Thousand Corpses, Devil's Rejects. Oh, The Hills Have Eyes wasn't him, was it?
No.
That was Aja, the same guy who did Crawl. So.
Oh, that's right. That's interesting.
31.
Maybe
What?
No, I never saw 31. So maybe I've only seen his versions of Halloween.
And then he did the animated film. It was like El Super Bistro or something like that. It was like an R-rated kind of schlocky, which there's some vibes of this in.
No.
Never. No.
Zombie
it was
schlocky.
Never a chance. No, with luchadors and the masks and stuff, it was about a superhero of sorts, R-rated animated fare, and they have a vibe of that in this film, obviously, from the trailer. There's some luchador craziness going down, so.
Okay.
Mark, I'll answer that question in the chat, Mark, in a minute, but I just want to make sure we're done talking about Rob Zombie.
Yeah, I'm done with it.
Lindsey, can you get me who is cast in Invisible Man in 2020? Is that a fact that Johnny Depp's been replaced as the Invisible Man in?
Whoa! First of all, slow down, rewind. The Dark Universe is still a thing.
Yeah. Lee Winnell's behind this.
Yeah, I actually have I have the link. I had it in the news notes. So it's an actor by the name of Oliver Jackson Cohen, and he was the drug addict brother in The House on Haunted Hill that Netflix did. He was this big, like, kind of foreboding physical presence, at least, but he was frail mentally, having dealt with all the different addictive aspects and whatnot, and kind of shunned from the family. I thought that even though he was one of the relegated characters as far as all the sisters in the show in comparison, I thought he gave a decent enough vibe, but in a leading role for what you would assume is going to be kind of a flagship Blumhouse release, with them taking over the reins, trying to revive the Dark Universe. I don't know about this casting, but even Jason Blum was tweeting about it, so they're seemingly pretty proud.
My buddy. Yikes.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Wow, I did not know that Blumhouse was trying to reboot Dark Universe. That is
they are. It's officially
He's trying to touch everything. If he could redo everything, he would.
Of course.
So I only saw the original, the 1933 Invisible Man, just last week. Dino and I did a full 1 hour discussion on it, which was streamed on my YouTube channel, WILIscredia. Movies you
Crawl. I tuned into that.
That's awesome. Movies you must see before you die. So the thing about the original and a bunch of other Invisible Man movies are that the lead character is going to be invisible for a fair portion of the movie. So maybe it's not that important who the person who is playing the Invisible Man is, right? I mean, because in the end,
Kevin Bacon and Chevy Chase were both pretty big names to throw into their respective roles. But I mean,
wait, when was Chevy Chase the Invisible Man? I've never heard of this.
The John Carpenter.
Yeah.
Memoirs of an Invisible Man.
Okay.
And the Verhoeven movie with Mr. Bacon. Elizabeth Shue was in that.
Oh yeah,
remember?
No, I like that movie a lot. I mean, I
actually really dig that movie too.
Yeah,
that makes me feel better. Thank you, Fuego.
Yeah.
It's not great. It's Verhoeven silliness, but no.
So
it's so silly.
Dino and I were talking about this during our discussion about the 33 film and subsequent films. They're not really serious. They all have a certain sort of camp to them. So perhaps this would be the first time an Invisible Man movie is done seriously. I think I have more faith in a movie that isn't going to lean on Johnny Depp, because Johnny Depp.
Is Johnny Depp in 2019?
Yeah, Johnny Depp in 20. Yeah, it's not 2006 anymore. Yeah. Okay.
Well, although the tables are a little turned with him and Amber Heard right now, as I'm sure you guys have seen. So
yeah,
she's the abuser now.
Yeah.
I'm letting the dust settle on all that before I really kind of try and dip my toe into everything. Because have we had the confirmation yet, or is it just like he said, she said still right now?
I contend they're probably both nuts. Yeah.
I mean, obviously they're both actors. Yeah. And if he drinks that much, she has to drink, right? You don't stay married to a guy that drinks that much if you don't drink heavily yourself.
The problem is her ex prior to Johnny Depp had there's a order of protection or something of that nature. There's documentation of Amber Heard being an abuser. So that is record. That
I did not know that. That's interesting.
Her previous lover, I don't know if it was a fiance or what. But there is documentation. There's record of Amber Heard being an aggressor in a previous relationship. So
that's worth looking into. Then that would explain when Crimes of Grindelwald came out. Like J.K. Rowling said something like, "Oh, I'm so proud to have Johnny Depp involved," and I'm just like, really. Right now, but maybe she knew something that hadn't come to light. I don't want to cast disparaging things on her, and I've liked Johnny Depp for so long. I don't want to write him off, even if he did have to have his lines for Pirates 5 fed to him through a microphone. It's I just hope I just hope they both get the help that they need, and they're both able to continue with their lives and be better people.
Yeah.
Nice middle of the road answer from Lindsey right there. Not weighing in either way.
So we've been running a little long today. A little hiccupy, just figuring things out. If you're watching on YouTube, we were trying a couple of things visually. I realize the audio is a little off. We're working through it and trying to streamline it. So thank you for your patience and dealing with some minor hiccups here and there.
You're all beautiful people. We don't deserve you. Thank you for dealing with us.
But what do you guys have planned for this week? And something big's going to drop like in an hour, because that's the way it seems to happen every week where news drops like 2 hours after we finish recording. So you guys looking forward to anything other than Lion King or
I plan to be good and drunk for now. I'm kidding, but I'm working on a Stranger Things video. I will begrudgingly watch Lion King. Mm-hmm. But that's about it right now.
Fuego.
So I just finally got done reading the schlog of a Star Wars novel that was Star Wars Queen's Shadow. It came out earlier this year in 2019. It's all about Queen Amidala, Padme in between episodes 1 and 2, and just her with all of her handmaidens and her hanging with, I don't know, Senator Organa, and it's very prequel politics heavy. And of all the Star Wars novels that I've read, boy, is it one of the most saturated with just not a lot of action going down. And it took me so much longer than I can cruise through 500-600 pages of Stephen King in like a week, but this took just putting it down and going to other things. But yes, I do have my Lion King tickets already purchased for Thursday evening, and I'm trying to go in with an open mind despite not loving the original film or 1.5 or 2 or all the other silly direct-to-video stuff that I saw. And I also, since that's really the only
hold that thought for a second, Fuego.
Yeah.
Tamara has been asking this question numerous times. My apologies, Tamara. I mean to read it, and if somebody's hot on something, I forget. But she's asked at least 3 times in the chat. And I meant to get
Tamara,
to it.
Sorry.
Yeah. So what she asked in the YouTube chat was, what are your thoughts for the upcoming film Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, August 9th? So I present that question to you. Good luck editing, Lindsey. I'm sorry, but...
You wouldn't like me when I edit angry.
Being PG-13, being PG-13, slight I don't know, cautiousness, trepidation, perhaps just to a degree. But then again, they were originally, YA stories and stuff. The art from those gave me legit nightmares when I stumbled across them when I was trying to graduate from something bigger than Goosebumps and before I discovered Christopher Pike and then eventually Stephen King. The stories are all very simple and short, and I know it's kind of slightly anthological in the fact that it has a cast of characters, but they're all going to find themselves in different beats from those books. There was one in particular that I always will remember about these 2 boys who find a drum, like an old Indian drum out in the woods, and some kid starts playing it, and he just incessantly plays faster and faster and faster until a arrow goes through his chest and he gets killed. I don't know why that's the one that's always stuck with me, but I still have the hardcover on my shelf that I've had for like 15 plus years, which I acquired after jumping into proper adulthood. And I mean, with Guillermo behind it, and with the guy who, if I recall correctly, also did the Autopsy of Jane Doe, I want to say. It's one of those PG-13 horror films that, much like what we see from when Blumhouse does PG-13 well, I guess, which maybe Insidious, I guess, falls into that criteria, because whereas The Conjuring was R, those were PG-13. It's within the realm of possibility. So I don't know, but those Schwartz stories, man, those Alvin Schwartz, they messed me up as a kid. They really genuinely did. So, but Guillermo just co-writing and producing on this, not directing like people originally theorized. Right. So,
Lindsey, what about yourself?
So I read a little bit of the Scary Stories, the Tell in the Dark. The one that always stuck with me was the one about the kid who's going in for just like a routine, like something not that big of a deal, but he has to stay in the hospital overnight. And there's a kid in the room who everyone says his name is like Charlie or something like that. And he's supposed to have his foot removed, and he keeps saying, "I'm not Charlie. I'm not. Guys, you have the wrong person." And then in the night, the Charlie kid switches the paperwork with the other kid in the room, so the wrong kid gets his foot cut off, and that's always been a nightmare if I had to go in a hospital and have the wrong procedure done on me ever since then. So
wrong
good
kid
stuff.
died.
Right, exactly. Like that's just they did something right with that one. But I will say I have trepidations with Del Toro producing.
Still my answer.
Directing Del Toro he's Del Toro. You can complain about the issues, but he's freaking Del Toro. He's a great guy. He knows what he's doing. He knows how to make a good movie. But he has put his name on some pretty bad movies in the past to produce.
Yeah.
Don't Be Afraid of the Dark and Mama come to mind. I strongly hate both of those movies, and I only saw them because they had Del Toro's name on them.
Yeah,
I did like The Orphanage, though, which he produced. I thought.
Oh, that's true.
I thought that was good. So.
You're right. The Orphanage actually is good. So he's 1 for 3.
So,
but the one that is very good.
I'll say up front that I'm not much of a reader, like at all. Emily's been trying to get me into stuff, and I'm just like, no, that's time editing being wasted right there. So I'm not familiar with the source material, and for reasons that Lindsey just listed, I'm a little skeptical. And as somebody who was starved and was begging for horror just 4 years ago, I feel like we're getting a little saturated, and it's making me a little nervous. Where, like, for the sake of horror, I don't want mainstream stuff to come like this every week, every other week. Because if only for, the ones that don't succeed could perhaps ruin it for something neat, and that is not the case considering the history we've had, the recent history 2 or 3 years back. I mean, It Too is coming in September. There's a couple of horror movies between now and Halloween season. So I'm skeptical for the exact reason that Lindsey said. Producing, why don't you get behind the camera? Why don't you not fill out the paperwork, and why don't you tell people what to do?
Did either of you guys see Autopsy of Jane Doe though?
Which one? That sounds very familiar. Which one? What was that?
So
was that a newer movie, older movie?
It was a few years ago. So it had a kid from Girl Next Door, who's now Emil Hirsch, I want to say. Yes, and then Brian Cox. And basically, it was a very solid, low-budget, self-contained. This strange, Jane Doe, unidentified woman shows up on the morgue slab at this family-owned spot between father and son, and a storm comes in as they start to try to cut her up and see what's going down, and there's hints as to the fact that she might still be alive, might be either demon possessed, witch. Like, they hint at all of these different potential things, and I don't want to give it away, but as far as low budget horror that's done very, very sophisticatedly, I mean, yeah, this is a Andre Avradal. I want to say Swedish, Norwegian, excuse me, so Scandinavia still, but he's also tackling a Stephen King project after Scary Stories called The Long Walk, which is dystopian kind of. I guess it's got some Hunger Games type vibes in the fact that it's about a bunch of boys that start on this walk from around Maine, like Boston, well, actually New England, so the Boston type area, and they're supposed to walk all the way down the coast. If you fall to a speed of less than 5 miles an hour, you get a warning. If you get 3 warnings, you're shot to death by firing squad, and the winner that gets to the end of it, pretty much from this overbearing totalitarian government force, gets whatever they want for the rest of their life. And it's a great character study. It's basically like the Hunger Games meets to Lindsey's credit, Battle Royale meets I guess Stand By Me. So yeah,
that's a grow. I want to watch that. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, I'm actually excited for that movie. But yeah, Autopsy of Jane Doe is very good as far as underseen horror from the last few years, in my opinion. So
it sounds very familiar to The Possession of Hannah Grace that came out last year, and I really like that movie actually.
I've seen that movie, and it's very different.
That's what you just said just made me go there. But it's
similar tropes hinted at, perhaps. But
okay.
Slasher and Such jumped on my statement and said, "Dude, more horror the better. I think this year has been stellar. Horror is in a major upswing." I cannot agree more. And for like selfish reasons, that's what I was getting at. I lost my franchise because Rings didn't succeed, and I hear stuff like Child's Play is a failure, and that's could not be further from the truth. People who just report on numbers don't consider that there's small ponds and there's giant oceans, and with horror it just seems like it's in a microscope. Everything that's released is just so. Anytime somebody screws it up, it feels like that gets pointed at, and I'm not saying that there's any one movie that I'm saying there's this pressure on, but I just get nervous for the sake of the genre. The genre's incredible. Midsommar, people are all over it. Crawl is what it is. Fun time, and that's I'd rather Crawl than Stuber, if you ask me. And I haven't watched Stuber, but I had more interest to watch Crawl. So there's that. I'm just saying, for the sake of horror as a whole, I'm being a little selfish in being skeptical, and that's fair. Somebody also asked. They're all saying Doctor Sleep is coming out later this year too.
That's true too. Yeah.
November.
Yeah, and I'm assuming there's 3 or 4 what have yous coming out in October, because that's a stomping ground. Somebody also asked about this Saw movie, which is, I guess, titled Organ Donor 2020, which is Chris Rock's Saw movie, which they brought on Samuel L. Jackson.
Yep.
So thoughts on that? I don't know if that's the first time you're hearing that.
I'm down. I am super down. Let's see where it goes from here.
Yeah, I don't know if Samuel L. Jackson is Jigsaw per se, but I mean,
Samuel L. Jackson saw.
What?
No, just making a bad joke. Don't worry about it. Ignore me.
Oh,
Samuel
Jigsaw.
L. Jackson.
Yeah. Like I said, bad joke. I'm sorry. I'm a bad person.
Fuego. What about you? What are you?
We actually touched upon this when we were doing our little creepy crawl thing ourselves with Chauncey and with Luke from Confused Reviews the other night on Friday. I would be lying if I didn't say it reeks a little bit of the Scream Resurrection that's going down right now. But just because you're urbanizing a property doesn't mean that it's gonna to turn off whatever audience, because I actually was one of the people who dug the new approach, at least from the trailer, to Jacob's Ladder, despite the fact that I love the Tim Robbins movie, and it's one of the most disturbing things I've probably ever watched. But I'm okay for bringing in a primarily African-American cast, setting it somewhere different. I'm totally cool with that. I like different takes on these sort of stories.
Saw's kind of diverse to begin with, though.
It is.
The franchise has always kind of had really decent representation. Listen, a lot of people can be tortured, and Saw is no. I don't know. Really, this is one of those episodes, it seems.
Yeah, how can you not make the Jordan Peele comparison, though, and the fact that a very reputable African American comedian in Chris Rock coming up with a horror idea about a franchise he apparently adores, and he pitched it to the powers that be over there, and they were just like, yeah, let's actually run with it. This sounds interesting, albeit nobody knows what the hell this idea is, and it will be directed and scripted. I guess the story is coming from Rock, but it will be scripted by the guys who did Saw, the most recent entry, and it's going to be directed by Lee Winnell, if I'm not mistaken. So he's going to be coming back to that franchise. And presumably after The Invisible Man, or maybe he's trying to fit it in before. I would have to double check on his IMDb to make certain. But yeah, he directed the second Saw, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, so. Chris Rock has a history, much unlike Jordan Peele, and he's kind of hit or miss. Of the stuff Chris Rock has done, I'm okay with. I Think I Love My Wife. Top 5, I really quite enjoy. If there's a Chris Rock movie I really quite have a decent time with, it's top 5. He has a history already, and nothing about his history really.
I like CB4.
He wrote and directed that?
I don't know what did. I mean, just as far as movies of his go. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean stuff he's in. I can get a little broader, but stuff he's written and or directed. He's got some movies out there, and it's not exactly, hit. Like I said, two of them I'm okay with. One is I Think I Love My Wife, which is okay. It's a dramedy.
Didn't he do one where he run for president or something like that? Head of state or something?
Did he write and direct that? He's in it. He's definitely in it.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think he just starred in it. Okay. Okay. Yeah, well, I tried.
I mean, you could be right. I know he's got a couple of movies out there. It's just when I looked at whenever this Saw news first dropped, and I looked at his filmmaking, not just as an actor, I was a little, check X. With Jordan Peele so far, he
did direct Head of State.
Okay, which again, that's a movie that's okay.
Yeah, it's forgettably funny.
And that's a comedy.
Yeah.
So that's where I think that's what it was. I looked at this guy's, his IMDb, and I got a little nervous because Jordan Peele was, unproven, and so far he's 2 for 2. The guy's got something to say. He's whatever you feel about the stories of those movies, they're refreshing for the horror genre. I have confidence in Jordan Peele, much unlike anything I was talking about 2 minutes ago. But Chris Rock, knowing the history he has, I'm not as sold, if that makes any sense. Yeah.
No, I get you. No, because I mean, it's always a gamble when someone switches genres from out of their comfort zone to something completely different. And horror and comedy, if anything, are on like the opposite ends of the spectrum from each other. Although, a lot of good horror movies do have like really great comedy in them, like Us and Get Out, and even Midsommar and Hereditary are both pretty funny, actually.
Midsommar, a little too funny there in that first act. I mean, I get it; they're swinging in the other direction from that misery, but a little too jokey, a little too pot bro jokes in the first second act segue there.
I couldn't stand Will Poulter, man.
Yeah.
He was just, I really did not like him.
Respect the eyebrows, sir. No, I agree. I mean, I just wanted more from him. I wanted more of a justification for him to be there, and I think I wouldn't have minded so much. But the fact that he just kind of just dies off screen and it doesn't really matter or go anywhere is
I actually went to see it a second time, despite because everybody kept badgering me in my circles of friends and critics and whatever. They're like, you need to see it a second time, just like with so many of these, and you'll appreciate more nuances and stuff. And I took the lady to it, and I saw a few things visually, but I saw something, shout out to Cody Leach, that didn't necessarily occur to me, but when I watched his review, it became very apparent upon my second viewing, where I thought there was already very obvious foreshadowing, but then when you see how even so many of those paintings completely foreshadow, there's one series in particular that relates to the little baking of the pie thing, where it's like beat for beat.
The shout out to Cody Leach is an extended shout out to Emily, because Emily with Ari Aster, she noticed stuff with Hereditary, and that's where like we got started looking for stuff like that. So by proxy, that's a shout out to Emily. I'm sorry.
Although I will also say, like, I didn't notice the flowers breathing when she gets the crown at the end the first time, and I thought that was pretty badass. But that just goes back to how I thought it was visually breathtaking. But even the lady friend, who I brought, my lady Katie, she was just like, well, it's really long, and she was unsettled more so than me by the violence. She thought that the end with a place burning, without spoiling stuff, she was very unsettled by that, more so than even skull crushing, without spoiling too much. Yeah, she was very unsettled by that, but she thought it was slow and plodding, and just didn't really like a lot of the characters, and she for whatever reason really didn't dig the main girl. I actually appreciated her more than I did the first time, but still, from female.
Apparently, she's dating Zach Braff, by the way.
Oh,
interesting.
What's up, Travis? What's up, John, in the chat? So
I thought she was a very unique lead. I kind of want to see more. She seemed like almost like an older version of Chloe Grace Moretz. Like something about her kind of reminded me there.
Have you seen Fighting with My Family yet?
I have not.
Yeah,
no.
I have.
She's the lead from that. She plays the wrestler Paige. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Okay, good year for her.
2 for 2 this year. Yeah, she was all right.
Okay. Florence Pugh, very interesting name as well.
Yeah, the one thing that she did say about Florence was that it was refreshing to see not your typical tall, big-titted, whatever sort of lead in a horror film. The fact that she was short and she was just not fully figured, and exactly,
Yeah, that was nice.
Yeah, so shout out for that, I suppose, but.
I was talking to a buddy of mine about the movie over the weekend too, like the scene where they're all dancing and suddenly they can speak the same language. Like, I love that movie. Spoilers, I guess. Sorry, I should have said that.
Yeah, the sex scenes are a little too funny. Some strange sexual encounters in that film.
Yeah.
So Fuego, you were wrapping up for yourself.
Yeah, this is a long
one. Again, best of luck.
Yeah, there is. Yeah. Yeah, so aside from Lion King and aside from a little bit more Star Wars coverage coming this week, there really is not an abundance of anything else. We're kind of approaching that mid to late summer dead zone where you don't have multiple marquee releases. And so, yeah, I'll probably be catching up on, binging stuff for Hail to Stephen King. I'm watching a show called Kingdom Hospital, which just saw its 15-year anniversary. It's a Stephen King show that was based on a Lars von Trier 1990s thing about a haunted hospital. It's not very good so far, and that has nothing to do with box office, but that's going to be this weekend's episode on the horror show of Hail to Stephen King. So,
awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
Awesome. And keep your eye. See, I don't want to make any promises right now because I kind of got way too involved with doing stuff for the Creepy Channel Crawl, which is 28 separate horror channels, or 28 total hours, supporting and shining a light on certain members of the horror community, which both myself and Lindsey, Emily's Adventures in Horrorland. I don't know if Lindsey had an hour there, but I'm jumping out on a limb there.
I just love that you confused me with your wife.
Yeah, well, the sound is
Sure.
Emily. I have a doctor's appointment tomorrow. I'm gonna ask them what my brain's
Why do
just
I
not
refer
cooperating.
to Lindsay as my wife, doctor? It's like,
It's bad because
Yeah,
I have an ex named Lindsay, so that's where the problem is.
Ooh,
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I do have to chime in and say on Emily's entry, there was that very amusing donation war that was going down at that particular point that me and Cecil were watching after we had filmed ours, and we were just like, oh, damn, man.
Yeah. It was really interesting to see just the support from John Kyle Stanton. Mostly, John Kyle Stanton was throwing his weight around. We saw some interesting colors in the super chat that we've never seen before. Raiders 8K was throwing it around, and Dino, the Late Horror Show, they were swinging some rainbows in the chat there, which very appreciated. But yeah, on top of our hours, be sure to go to the Horror Addicts page to get the full playlist and support the community. So my excuse for that is I have extra shooting I need to do for the audition review, and I'm hoping it still comes out by the time we're with you again next week, but I don't know. But that's me making excuses now. Other than that, I think I'm done. I don't know about you guys.
I think we've run out of steam. We've been going for almost 2 hours.
Almost
Good show though, guys. This is fun.
A double episode basically.
Yeah.
More or less. Extensive palaver. Awesome as always.
All right. Have a good night, guys. We'll see you next